Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. One of the toughest lessons I ever learned in my life, and I especially learned it really well this past year, is that we live in a culture where the more you have, the more easy it is to negotiate for more. And that applies to a lot of things, not just money. Money's only the most obvious one, but it applies to love, it applies to good health, it applies to friendships, it applies to just about any good that you can think of in our lives. The more you have, the more easy it is to negotiate for more. Let me give you a couple of notable examples in my life. 2 years ago, I started my art career, and I'm starting to bring in some money from it, not enough to live on. And even if I did bring in enough to live on, I probably wouldn't quit my day job. And the reason that I wouldn't quit my day job, even if I brought in 6 figures from my art project, is that the art project actually neutralizes a lot of the toxicity that I experience at work, right? So for example, a lot of times I let people step over boundaries because I really cannot risk anything at my job, right? And in fact, a lot of times I kind of regret, in past years, I've mentioned how toxic my job was. The truth is, the job probably wasn't as toxic as I thought it was. It was probably more my finances and my bargaining power that were more toxic than the job itself, right? So I was working at a tutoring center, and I had colleagues who had differences in ways of life, and they stepped all over me, right? My colleagues wanted to go away, take their kids to go see Taylor Swift, and then they wouldn't reciprocate when there were things that were near and dear to me. The truth is, I probably didn't push as hard as I could have, right? Had I had the art career that I have today 2 years ago, right? My last job at Washington Tech could have played out very differently as well, right? I would have been much more empowered to drive the ship, right? This past month, I met a girl at a graduation ceremony, and it's really empowered me when I can communicate with other people, even outside of that group, right? I'm here at a hiking meetup, and one of the people there does something offensive. I'm actually capable of speaking now, right? I'm not afraid of losing the group. And also, one of the trickiest things that I can get involved in is that I got a group of friends that I like, right, at a hiking meetup, at a board game meetup. But then there's a girl I want to make a move on, and I don't want to jeopardize that the entire circle of friends, right? And now that I have other groups, right, the more groups I have, the easier it is to take risk, right? And the more risk, the more reward, right? It's kind of like if you had $1,000 to invest in the markets versus $1 million. Not only do you have more, but you have more room to take risks, right? The $1 million could probably grow at a higher percentage than the $1,000, right? It kind of feels like that, right? And same with good health, right? 6 months ago, I was grappling with long COVID. The long COVID made it that much harder to cook healthy meals, to plan, and so the worse your health is, the worse it is to maintain your health, it seems like. And this is one of those things that I wish we would research on how to flip that dynamic around. See, right now that I have my art career, and it makes it so much easier for me to speak up for myself at work, I kind of feel it's wrong. I would much rather have much more power to speak up 2 years ago when I didn't have that art career, right? I wonder how we could go about shifting societal attitudes to make it closer to that direction, right? The person who discovers how to do that, that's worthy of a Nobel Prize right there, I would imagine, right? Much more valuable than discovering chemical element 119, much more valuable than a lot of the junk Nobel Prizes out there that will never amount to any good in our society, right? So that's something I'll think about. An invention to kind of create a catch-up mechanism in our society, right? Unfortunately, so another great example of this imbalance is that we don't like to treat singles very well. Whether they're single by heart or they're just temporarily single and looking for neither of those groups do we treat very well in our society, right? And it's especially acute if you're single and looking. Right? If you're single and solosexual, it's painful, but at least there are benefits to that. But for people who are single and looking, what society often forgets is that looking for that future partner in and of itself almost feels like a full-time job. I know this because ever since I met this girl at the graduation ceremony, I call her Taylor Jr. Ever since I met Taylor Jr., it feels like my entire load has... It feels like I left a job. That's how it feels like. That looking for her was like a full-time job for me at the time, right? And now I just have, instead of 3 jobs, now I only have 2, right? It does feel like that at times, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.